So I've been looking at North African countries and at Turkey, and I've found very interesting similarities across them, despite their different regime types. And so sort of starting with that observation that you can have a republic and a kingdom and a semi-authoritarian presidential system that all decide to essentially enforce state oversight of religious affairs. And I found this similarity so fascinating that I have started to visit these ministries and speak to the people who make the policies to try to get at their reasoning for this control of religion. And it's not always overbearing. Sometimes it really is in order to guarantee the neutrality of spaces, but sometimes, of course, it is used for political purposes to reinforce support for the government. Now that the Islamists are in power, however, at least in Tunisia and briefly when they were in Egypt, and nominally they are also in Morocco, they realized that there were people even further to their right, essentially, if you want to generalize, you could say the Salafists, who are less respectful of the state as a set of institutions and who are really challenging the public order and the constitution itself. So even the political Islamist parties are essentially forced to try and enforce a relatively neutral public space, which means having an entire corps of civil servants who are trained by the state in order to work in the mosques, right? So you have 3 or 4 employees per mosque, ideally, and you have tens of thousands of mosques in each of these countries, which are maintained by the state, and the imams are paid by the state. There are official ulama councils, and despite this, there is, lively religious life. So in a sense, they're trying to protect that religious life from more extreme versions, and that was true whether there were secularists in government, and it's true now that there are less secularists in government. The Diyanet, which is the Presidency of Religious Affairs, was created under the first years of the Republic to replace the Caliphate. And it was an instrument of repression, quite simply. It pushed religion entirely out of public life. Now, when the AK Party took power, you might expect that, therefore, they would start to wind down this large public bureaucracy. When they came into power, there were around 80,000, 90,000 employees of Diyanet. Now, 10 years later, there are 120,000 employees of Diyanet. They have been building mosques also with state funds at more or less the same rate as their predecessors, but they have grown the state bureaucracy, religious bureaucracy, much faster than their predecessors. So you could say that they have discovered the benefits of having all of these resources at their disposal. But interestingly, even though the AK Party, like other Islamist parties, really railed against state control of religion, when they get into power, they realize, it's not just about, the spoils of power. They realize that there are, in fact, genuine threats to the rule of law that come from religious quarters.